Today we're talking about Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Let's get it. So this book, I read it a few weeks back. I've been sitting with it for a couple of weeks because I just had to get all my thoughts together. This is a retelling of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield, which I haven't read, but I do think that this book stands alone. I don't think I need the backdrop of David Copperfield to understand what's going on here. Anyways, this book takes place in the deep Appalachia where the main character, Demon Copperhead or Damon Demon, is just living his life. Like it's a coming of age story where we are with Demon as he's growing up. Let me just tell y'all what I experienced when I first read it. I'm going to read the first paragraph. Look at that. Look how pretty. For the survivors. It is vain to recall the past unless it works some influence upon the present. That's a quote from Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. But this is how the book starts. First, I got myself born. A decent crowd was on hand to watch, and they've always given me that much. The worst of the job was up to me, my mother being, let's just say, out of it. I love when I start a book and within the first 10, 20 pages, I already know it's a 5-star book for me. This book is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star. It's a 5-star book for me. And I love that for me because, thank you. Thank you for writing this because it was so good. I could not put this book down. It is 548 pages and I couldn't put it down. It was so good. It was so good. It follows Demon, whose real name is Damon, but nobody calls him that. It follows Demon through his life growing up in deep Appalachia. And it's so, it's written so well. You are in there, in the trenches with Demon. You in there. You are understanding his world. You are, experiencing what happens to him when we're talking about it. He has experienced a lot of traumatic things, but not for the sake of trauma. Some authors write trauma for the sake of trauma, and it literally does not serve any other purpose. This was done so well, and you were there with him. You were feeling empathy, sympathy. You were feeling what he was feeling because it was also necessary for how the story progressed. It was so good. I don't even know another way to say this. It was written so well. The characters, character development, check. Setting, check. Storytelling, check. Composition, check. What else you need? Check. It's got it. It's just got it. You go through Demon's life, and I'm constantly having to remind myself as I'm reading how old he is. I'm really I'm reading it and I'm he's 10 at this time. He's 10 right now. Okay. Go through and you're reading he's 12. Wow, he's 12. Go through and read it. Oh, he's 16. Go through and read it. He just turned 18. What? So you really have to remind yourself, or I did anyway, how old he is because he lived a life, man. He did. This book talks about systematic issues with the foster care system, with the public school system, goes into it comments on different social issues, especially that the foot that's on the neck of rural America, just like it's on the neck of inner city America. It shows kind of this duality between the two, because when I'm thinking about books like this, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of Black kids in urban America, inner cities, inner city schools, how they're just throwing these resources and they're pushing out. It's like a churn where you churning out a certain type of kid because you want this, that school to prison pipeline. It's rural America, they had a foot on their neck too. You know what I mean? This was set during the time where opioids was going crazy in Appalachia. Like, if you know anything about deep Appalachia, you know about the coal mines, which this book talks about, and you know about the drug issue, which this book talks about. And it's so like, it's just so, this is like, if this wasn't over 500 pages, this would be the perfect book to take to a book club. But I know like book clubs want like 300-ish pages, but so many conversations can stem from this book with the foster care system and what that looks like the checks and balances with that, the effort that's put into, the consistency or lack thereof. Talks about the school system and what's that look like for the kids that's involved in it, and the teachers, well-meaning teachers that come in. Talks about the role of sports in the school system, what that looks like and what that means for kids and the teachers and alumni, things like that. It talks about obviously the opioid crisis. What was the root of it? What, like, that bottom line, that dollar, what like, let's talk about that. It talked about the parallels between inner city youth and rural, poor rural youth. What's that look like and why? Like, what can be done about that? It talks about so many things. It talks about teenage mothers, the support or lack thereof. It talks about so many different things. What does resources look like for certain groups? You know what I mean? So it was really, really good. You are absorbed into Demon's world. Like, you are right there with him. You're in his mind. You're like walking through, and it's so necessary to see him at every single stage because you're witnessing the progression of this kid turn into this man, and it comes full circle at the end. I don't know what I would have preferred the ending to be. I think I'd be like, typically I want like this over the top happy ending, and that's not what you get here. You get a kind of realistic ending. Yeah, and it's not like it's the worst ending ever, but it's not this over the top fairy tale ending. It's a realistic ending, which is fitting for this type of book. I think Barbara, I've never read any of her other books, but that would definitely change because this was so well done. She grew up in this area, so I think she was writing from a spot, from firsthand experience. And I will say that if you are in recovery, if you've dealt with addiction, whether that's first, second, or third hand, if you've dealt with abandonment issues like isolation, things like that, definitely check the trigger warnings for this book because it gets heavy at times. And again, it's not trauma for the sake of trauma, but it is traumatic at some times, and it does go into detail. The characters were so well developed. I wanted to see a little bit more of his aunt in this, but other than that, I felt like everybody was really well developed. I thought it was well done the way that she kind of ended this book, how it all kind of came together, how it tied in different themes of, like I said before, addiction, systematic issues, oppression in some kind of ways, how it gave a spin to what we typically get like in foster care type books. Like, we know there's issues, there's inherent issues, and that whole system has like holes and things like that. But it gave us a couple of different things that I don't typically get from books, which mainly was the great storytelling around what does that look like from a 12-year-old's perspective? What does that look like from somebody whose mom is XYZ? What does that look like when I can literally see what, like, it's just, I don't want to get too much away, but it's really good and it was done really well. This book was thick. I flew through it because it was so good. Like, I needed to know what happened to Demon. I needed to know that. And then like when I'm going through it, because it's actually set in deep Appalachia, I am like, I got my map pulled up. When they mentioned Devil's Bathtub, I'm there looking at it. When they mentioned Jonestown, I'm there looking at it. They mentioned different cities. I'm there. I'm looking at the actual Google map. They're trying to figure out where this place is talking about because I need to know. And then I happened to run across this documentary that was set in Deep Appalachia. So I took like a week after I finished the book to kind of let it process. But I was watching documentaries about this, and a lot of stuff mimicked the sentiments that was in this book. Some of the like clinics that was talked about, and even problems with proposed solutions that wasn't really talked about in this book. I got it afterwards, like some of the different clinics for certain things, issues with that later on that wasn't realized probably when this book was set. But yes, so many different things, and there's so many topics that could spawn from reading this if you're using this book in a book club or like as a discussion board or something like that. But 5 star, like this book was really good, and I am so glad I read it. The only reason, let me tell you how I came across this book. I saw the Goodreads. They had a list like most anticipated books of this year or something like that. Some Goodreads list for 2024, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look at the comments because these books on here look lame. So I looked at the comments, and this book was listed at book 60 of the list, and number one was something else. I don't know. And people in the comments was like, I can't trust this list because Demon Copperhead is 60, so I disregard the list because no way that shouldn't have been top 5. And I was like, and multiple people said this. So what did I do naturally? I was like, let me see, because people rhyme for this book. And when I got it, I could see why. I was like, yeah, they had us at 60. Those other books must be amazing because this was really good on so many different levels. Yeah, but I just wanted to share that. I read this. I'm glad I did. It had a lot of important themes and topics in it. It was beautiful storytelling, greatly composed. I can tell she's been writing for a while. And I knew that before I even looked her up. She's been writing for decades, but you can tell just by reading it. Like it's seasoned. You can tell she's a vet. And I love that. I love that for her in this book because it's thank you. Thank you. But yeah. All right, y'all. If y'all read this, let me know what you think. If you haven't, let me know if you will read it. Okay. See you.